Good evening. These are the stories making the headlines in the Hot 7 Nightly News. A young man is stabbed to death in the southern town of Vieux-Fort. Should prayer be banned in public forums? Men from different ends of the spectrum weigh in. A union representative warns that there may be no twinkling at this year's Festival of Lights. We have the details of these stories and much more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely and Amy Joseph.
It is Friday, the 30th of November, 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I am Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. Police officials are reporting that a young man has been stabbed to death in Bruceville, Vieux-Fort. The incident reportedly occurred at around 2:55 p.m. Friday. According to law enforcement, the 17-year-old, who went by the alias Destroy, received 3 stab wounds to the chest and 1 to the back. We will have more details on this matter in a subsequent newscast. The former Dallas police officer who walked into Botham Jean's apartment on the 6th of September and shot him while wearing her police uniform has been indicted on a charge of murder. Amber Geiger was originally charged with manslaughter in the shooting death of 26-year-old Botham Jean back in September. She was released from jail on a $300,000 bond about an hour after turning herself in. The Dallas County Grand Jury began hearing the case against 30-year-old Geiger on Monday. The family of Jean filed a lawsuit against the city of Dallas and its police department in late October. Jean's family said in the suit that Geiger had a history of violence and used excessive force against Jean that fateful night in September, which resulted in his wrongful death. In other news, a call is being made to stop prayers at public events, in workplaces and in schools. The argument by musician and educator Jason Joseph is that this common practice is completely out of place in a society where people have varying beliefs, including a non-belief in the existence of God. This viewpoint is being opposed by an archdeacon who says in a Christian society, prayer is part of our identity. The program for many public functions hosted in St. Lucia begins with a word of prayer. It is a common practice that is drawing the ire of a local musician and educator. Praying at public functions, in workplaces, and in schools, while viewed as appropriate and spiritually uplifting by some, is totally out of place in the opinion of Jason Joseph.
It is not proper in this day and age to be going to a public event or to be going to some professional meeting and you're being asked to stand to pray and in some cases even sing. That is totally out of place, and I think it's time all those things are looked at and being taken a little more seriously. It is still happening in our schools. You have a public school, but yet Christianity is being forced on all children. If you're going to teach the children about religion, that is something else. You teach them about all religions, and that should include atheism as well, because you're educating them, but you cannot force only Christianity on children and ask people to pray and talk about Jesus Christ in a society like ours where people have different beliefs.
Anglican Archdeacon Christian Glasgow vehemently opposes doing away with prayer in public forums. He says, as a Christian nation, prayer is part of our identity. Those who are not so inclined, he says, are free to excuse themselves when prayer is taking place.
We in St. Lucia claim to be Christians, then you must live out that Christian identity. It cannot just be party, talking about it. We must live it out. Prayer in public spaces is part of our identity. If a person has an issue with that, excuse him or herself from it. He or she can exercise the freedom of choice.
Christian pastor and writer Robert Lee says the issue is a thorny one, and even he is personally conflicted on the issue of prayer in a public forum.
I wouldn't say that overall it is inappropriate to have prayer. However, I myself, as someone who is very involved in my church, I'm a Christian, always do feel a certain awkwardness. If I'm someone, even if I'm asked to pray or other people are praying, and we're praying as Christians, I think to myself, I look at the audience, there are Europeans who don't believe in anything. There may be people in there who are Rastas, who are Muslims, who are Hindus. And I always feel personally, yes, a bit awkward at what is happening there. So these are difficult questions. But I don't think we can eliminate, or we should try to eliminate completely. For example, a Catholic school should lead its children in prayers. They're a Catholic school run by the Catholic. An Adventist school should be free to lead their school in prayers. If there are people in there who are not Adventist or Catholics, they want to step out, and I guess they are free to step out. But we have to find a way to remember that we're a pluralistic society with all different religious views around, on no religious views at all.
The issue of the appropriateness of prayer has even spilled over into politics in the past, when former SLP Health Minister Sarah Flood-Bobra accused her cabinet colleagues of trying to, quote, kick Jesus out of the cabinet by doing away with prayer. And of course, with the season being upon us, Rochelle Gonzalez has taken to the streets to ask members of the public whether their Christmas season is looking bright or tight.
As we bid adieu to November and say hello to the month of December, you can pretty much guess what else we're saying hello to, right? Yes, the Christmas season. But as I look at the faces and the body language of shoppers, I can't tell what kind of season they're expecting to have. So you tell me, what is your Christmas looking like? Is it going to be a bright one or a tight one?
I'm not sure how to answer that question because of the economic system in the world and the country that's affecting everybody. But when I look around me, I'm seeing it would appear it would be a bright Christmas because everybody's shopping right now. And so I'm thinking that would be the best way to answer that question.
So far, everything moving well and very lovely. So far to me, I don't know about others, but for me, I see I'll have a lovely Christmas this year. I'll enjoy it.
Il est mauvais, bon, because I don't want back to travail. I don't want bad here, so il est ouais dans le every moon. I don't want il est ouais dans le yo be ça gagner ça yo besoin.
You know Lucians already, you know, like they like to spend their money too much. So instead they save their money to go and buy something more useful for it. They will go and spend it on shoes and these expensive things. But to me, the things you have, it's nothing, like you don't really need it. Yeah, you don't really need it.
I think so far, the average man and woman, you can just see them on the streets, and most of them are low 15 and 17. Some of them do not have a little job and 17. Some of them are scruffy, are trying to beg and 17. But I think it would be a rough, hard, difficult Christmas for St. Lucians in this country, because the average man and woman, they are not benefiting. And you can take the cameras and go to the business places and they will tell you that things are rough and hard and difficult in this country.
They will no work. I was personally want to work, I can get work. As a pensioner, I get a decade pension, I can say thanks for that, because I have a decade pension getting every month from government. So I personally could have a good Christmas because I get in a pensioner. Right? But for the countryside, no way.
No money coming, no ching, so it will be tight. So anybody have money, let's they hold the money in their pocket until next year, God's willing. We will postpone Christmas for this year.
Well, I don't know about you, but Christmas is most certainly my favorite time of year. So fingers crossed it'll be a bright one. For Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez, checking out.
The CSA General Secretary is warning that if there are no twinkling lights for the annual Festival of Lights, he will not be the one to blame nor the union. The fault, he says, will be that of a system that leaves workers at the mercy of the whims of employers. The General Secretary of the Civil Service Association, Claude Paul, says the patience of members who are employed with Lucelec is wearing thin. The industrial impasse between the two parties is over the interpretation of the grade structure in the collective agreement between the CSA and Lucelec for the period 2011 to 2013. The CSA refused to sign the agreement until the matter was resolved. Despite several meetings, including interventions by the Labour Department and the Minister for Labour, the matter could not be resolved. The collective agreement for the period remained unsigned, and the matter was referred to the tribunal. Paul is clearly exasperated with the process, and he says so are the employees.
In spite of going to a tribunal, which normally takes 14 days to deliver his verdict, it's been over 3 months. We met on August 29th, and nobody is saying anything. The Minister of Labour is quiet, the Labour Commissioner, a big disappointment, and nobody's saying anything.
and what you want us to do. CSA, at this point in time, will have every legitimacy to ramp up industrial action. And if there are no lights for Festival of Lights, don't blame me.
Paul warns the industrial relations climate in St. Lucia is a powder keg. He fears that workers are being pushed to the brink.
I keep coming back to Lucia because this is very, very upsetting to persons like myself who are representing workers. We are here to try to make a positive difference, to try to represent our workers, and to do what is right. And this is all we are calling on employers to do. Do what is right. Because you expect to get a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. But if you keep underpaying people, you cannot expect to get the maximum out of them. And I think we are entering a crisis period in this country, and things may get worse. I would not like to see it. I do not want to be someone who's issuing threats to people. But when you don't press people, that's what's going to happen. It will reach the point where industrial peace will be no more.
For Lucelec's part, it has previously stated that it is willingly and actively participating in all attempts at finding a solution to the impasse. The decision on the outstanding issue, Lucelec notes, is not in its hands, and the company, like the CSC, is awaiting the ruling of the tribunal. Following the court's Black Friday debacle, the director of the Consumer Affairs Division says business owners need to be more reasonable. His concern is that St. Lucia might be adopting the best and worst of the metropolitan style. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
On Friday afternoon, the director of Consumer Affairs Division, Guillaume Simon, had this reminder for Court St. Lucia.
The Protection Against Unfair Competition Act, which speaks to, and if I could cite Article 6, misleading the public, that any act or practice in the course of industrial or commercial activities that misleads or is likely to mislead the public with respect to an enterprise or its activities, in particular, the products or the services offered by such enterprise, constitutes an act of unfair competition. Now, misleading may arise out of an advertisement or promoting, or may in particular occur with respect to any of the following, and I will cite F, which is the price of the products or the manner in which it's calculated.
This statement was of course made in relation to the now viral video which was released showing an alleged disparity in prices at a Courts branch during last week's Black Friday sale. Simon said, from his department, the video has been viewed with real concern. He said as the island continues to mirror major metropolitan countries, businesses should practice more fairness.
I think the same conditions that you will get in the metropolitan countries are in fact available to us within the region, and that is through the advent of course, the internet, and of course the shipping companies, goods being made available to consumers directly. And so, yes, I would say that we have adopted more of that approach. The Black Friday sales are available locally or regionally, which obtained in the metropolitan countries. So I think, yes, there are in fact similarities in terms of how our consumers being exposed to more goods and services instantly at reasonable prices.
On Tuesday this week, Court St. Lucia posted a statement via their Facebook page apologizing profusely for the disparity, which they called an error at one of their branches. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, the Folk Research Center finds a new temporary home. Trinidad and Tobago helps St. Lucia to involve people with disabilities in the workplace, and St. Lucians are encouraged to know their HIV status as we celebrate World AIDS Day. Stay with us.